Over the Line is live for Monday, August 24th, and Tracy Broussard.
Hello, Jeff.
And John Scott, my longtime buddy from Nashville, who's originally from the Arkansas area, but then Memphis, grew up in that Memphis music scene. And we're going to talk to John today about a lot of things. John and I go all the way back. It's kind of funny. We go all the way back to, John, help me out. It was probably about 1987, wasn't it?
It was 87, or it might have been 86.
86?
86 or 87. I believe, yeah. Where was the first? Was it the first place we met? Was that in was that at your studio?
Yes.
At your,
it was studio. And we were in Arkansas, and you guys came up to the radio station. Kind of like back in the old days there, you guys kind of went on your own and checked all the radio stations out, from little stations all the way to the big stations.
Yeah, that's the way you used to break the record.
That's how you worked it. Instead of the record labels on the phone and everything, you guys just came to the radio stations and talked to everybody. And I'll never forget, you guys, you and Jimmy came in, Jimmy Davis, and you guys part of Jimmy Davis and Junction, and you had a song called "Kick the Wall."
Kick the Wall.
And that was also the name of the CD, right?
Yes, that was the name of the CD.
And so John came into the studio, and this kind of, sat and talked and got on the air, and we played the song, and we added it right away, and it was a great song and had some great chart success for them early on. And John, tell us a little bit about that CD, because there was a couple of songs on there that probably could have came out too, but what actually happened with the label and you guys to where it kind of just fizzled a little bit after that?
Yeah, well, a guy named Bob Pittman is the one who, when we were playing in Memphis, he had some of his people coming through. Bob Pittman is the founder of MTV, or he started MTV a long time ago, back whenever it was music only oriented with rock and roll. And back when it was cool.
Yeah, I agree with you totally on that.
Yeah, and anyway, he founded that, and when he sold MTV, he partnered up with MCA to distribute our record with an Irving Azoff. There's a guy named Irving Azoff who was the president of that label then, who's basically been the president of all labels. I think he's the guru of all labels.
Yeah, he's been around a long time and helped a lot of people's careers.
Yeah, and so we signed with them, and we really had a great start. They did a huge launch, and we were going to be like right up there with all the Bryan Adams and all the people who were going on then. Michael Jackson, which was probably part of our demise. In fact, Sinead O'Connor was actually the ultimate reason, I think, of our demise, believe it or not.
Oh, my goodness. How'd that? Well, I'm sure we'll get into that. But
yeah.
I want to hear that story.
Yeah, but anyway, now, you got all the stories of what happened, and I got as much insight as I could on what happened with Bob Pittman and Irving Azoff. But we released "Kick the Wall," and it was going strong. I mean, we came out of the box. I forget what we charted really high on the charts, and then, but Bob Pittman wanted us to chart. This is what I understand now. Whether this is true, I'm not sure, but I believe this to be true. He wanted us to chart really high, if not like almost at number one, and nobody had really done that. And so he got aggravated, I guess, and went into Irving Azoff's office and said, "I want to know why my band's not number one." And Irving Azoff supposedly said, "Nobody walks into my office and talks to me that way."
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and so here we are with a bullet. Back in those days on the charts, you had a bullet if you were doing good. And we had what was called the Hip Clip of the Week on MTV. Everything was going great. We were touring with the Outfield.
I love the Outfield. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I wish I could
Yeah.
flash back in time and be you guys' drum tech. Because man, that
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. We still talk to one of the guys, Frankie Callahan, who was actually on their tour, and he sang the background vocals for all of them, and they wouldn't let him come out front. They kept him behind a screen so he couldn't be seen, so they could keep it 3-piece. Anyway, we talked to him all the time from across the big pond. He's in Europe, but anyway, so let me see, where was I? We were going really strong, and then suddenly it was just like we were on the charts, and then we were just like way down low in the charts, and we're like, what in the world's happened here, and supposedly there was an argument in the high levels of the people, the presidents, Bob Pittman and Irving Azoff. So everybody underneath that falls like dominoes,
Oh man.
And so we didn't really know what to do, because there's an old saying, you spend your whole life to write your first record, and then you got 9 months to put the second record. And
nope, we lost connection there a little bit.
okay, I'm sorry. Somebody called me there. And so our management kind of freaked out, didn't know what to do. It said, well, we got to get off the label. We got to get to another label. And so we tried to do something that's very seldom done. We re-released the Kick the Wall record, which is, after you've done all your radio, all your touring and promotional, everything's exhausted, all of that, to break a record, and then it goes away for a little bit and then comes back. That's kind of a weird thing whenever people say, wait a minute, I just saw this last year. So we really just kind of threw a Hail Mary pass at trying to re-release the record. And it was really a shame, because it should have been a huge success. And because of the powers that be at the top level, the powers that be, they got into a fight. Everybody underneath that just kind of fell.
That Bob Pittman's still fighting with everybody. Now he's in charge of iHeartMedia, and he's got something going on there, and all the radio and all that kind of stuff, and playing their 100 singles, whatever they're playing now. I don't know, 50 artists back and forth. So, but there was, you talk about Kick the Wall, and I still say, and I've told you this many times, John, that Just Having Touch, a song that you had a part in writing too, probably was the best ballad at that time. And I mean, you're talking 86, 87 when Bon Jovi was going strong, but that ballad, and I'm not much of a ballad guy, and I told you that a long time ago, but that one, okay. I believe that song, Just Having Touch, probably could have been a big song for you guys.
Thank you. Hey, I want to ask you something real quick.
Yep.
Somebody tried to call me, and now I can't hear you.
Oh, did it mute out your? Did it mute out your?
I can barely hear you talking, but I can't. I need to put you on my speaker somehow.
Okay.
How should I do that, Tracy?
You might want to check on that, or maybe check your level on your phone and bring that level up. Maybe your volume's down on there.
Yeah, it's up.
How's it doing now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can only hear you through my cam mic.
If you go to the, that's all right.
Oh, you're good.
That's the joys of the internet.
Why don't I get some headphones? That might be best.
Yeah,
headphones might work.
That'd be cool.
Yeah,
they might work.
Hang right there.
Yeah, no problem.
John is going to get some headphones on. We lost him a little bit. Got a telephone call. What do you usually do? You put yours on airplane?
Yeah, I put it on airplane mode. But man, John's talking about that era of 80s music
Middle 80s, yeah.
and the ballad you guys were talking about. Man, that's right in
Okay, sorry about
the
that.
ballpark of like Richard Marx and
Headphones
all. It was
coming.
such a sound at that time, and you were in radio at that time.
Right.
And I would say that for me as a drummer, those were my formative years in the 80s playing, and I still to this day practice to 80s pop stuff. So, and when he mentioned the Outfield, that's one of my favorite bands of that time too. So I'm just jealous of both of y'all for having y'all were in it, like y'all were doing it. John was playing the music, touring with all the acts, and Jeff was playing the music on the radio.
Exactly.
Man, I would have been listening to you if I would have lived near you. You'd have been one of my favorite DJs.
Can you hear us now, John?
I can. Now I'm finally back with you. I'm sorry.
To go back to this though, Tracy was talking about the ballad and being on, being out with the Outfield and there's others that, I mean, you actually did that Charlie Daniels thing. I can't think of what it's called, but you and Jimmy in the band did that.
Right.
But just having touch, that song, like I said, if it would have worked right, it would have came out right after Kick the Wall probably, and it would have probably kicked some ass because it was one of those ballads. I mean, you had the Bon Jovis, you had, like you said, Bryan Adams and all that, and Journey was still going strong at that point.
Right.
But that song, I think it had a chance to be a great radio song at that time. And
thank you.
The people giving up on that, I think, really missed out on that song. For some reason, I still think that. And
a lot of people, it was actually going to be the third single on the record. And,
it was okay.
Yeah. Back in those days, there was kind of a format. Your third single would be a ballad.
Ballad.
And would have been the one that was really going to bring in the dough, so they say. I was really excited about that. I remember whenever we were on tour with the Outfield, that I remember driving out west and I would hear the song just come on the radio, and it would freak me out because people were playing it. And I was just like, wow, this is really catching on. And the sad thing about it is, whenever all the publishing companies, when the money is all spent to do everything, and then the song doesn't have its opportunity to live at the moment,
right?
Then there's no incentive, if you will, for people to come back to that song because there's no money in it, from a publishing standpoint. And there's a lot of great songs that never see the light of day because of technical errors and stuff. And of course, if you can buy the song back, but I don't know how you do that.
We're talking with John Scott. He was with Jimmy Davis and Junction back in the 80s when I first met him. And John, talk a little bit about how you guys all got together, because you're from near Jonesboro, right? Arkansas?
Jonesboro, Arkansas.
And then everybody else is basically from that Memphis area, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So how did that happen? Did you end up moving to Memphis, or what happened?
Uh-huh. I moved to Memphis. Actually, I played at a place called Liberty Land there, which was a theme park. And that's where I met Jimmy. We both played the same theme park together. And then we went on this was actually my 12th grade year, which I didn't actually go to school my 12th grade year. I graduated through correspondence course. And we went to Europe on a DOD tour, Department of Defense. Okay. And we did that with a group we started named Banda. And then we, from there, Jimmy and I kept writing together and recording together. and that's whenever we started playing in front of Planet clubs, and then we had scouts that would come out from record labels and to see us. We hooked up with a guy named John Horniak, who was our manager, and he assembled all the showcases, and that's where we met Bob Pittman. And
Okay.
And anyway, so yeah, back to Memphis. Jimmy and I met in Memphis, and that's where Tommy Burroughs, the guitar player, and David Cochran, bass player, they were all Memphis guys, and that was the band.
Now that Tommy Burrow, I remember that guy as a fiddle player.
Yeah.
I mean, he was like a grand champion in fiddles, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was actually a grand champion. Yeah, that's great. You remember that? He was actually a grand champion mandolin player.
Mandolin, okay.
Which is actually kind of like the fiddle, except you trade out the bow for a pick,
Yeah.
In case you didn't know. But that's pretty good, Jeff. Man, you remember, you have an elephant in your family somewhere. Or something.
He does. He has a great memory. He remembers all kinds of stuff.
No, I remember, there's a time, John, it was right after we went on the song. I think it was the summer of 88, maybe it was 87. I'm not sure. But you guys opened up for John Kay and Steppenwolf in Little Rock on the river. And I remember partying backstage and everything at that. And that, don't ask me how I remember that, but I remember that.
Wow.
And I remember being back there and everything and having a good old time. And that's when it seemed like at that time that everything was going where it needed to be going. And then it was like right after that, all of a sudden, boom, that the lead can, just fell out. The bottom fell out like crazy.
Yeah.
And then, and then it was just, then I didn't hear anything from anybody. And it was so funny. I ran into Jimmy. I think it was probably close to 10 years later. He was doing a coffee shop in Memphis, and I ran into him and we talked then and all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to fast forward for a little bit because I want to get to, you playing with Tanya and all that, but I got to fast forward and tell you this story. I was at a Jamie Johnson concert in Milwaukee at the Pabst Theater. Now this is back probably 2008, maybe 9, right around in there.
Okay.
10 maybe. And I was actually going to talk to the drummer at that time was boy, I'm trying to think who opened up for you guys, who was there with you. But anyway, I knew somebody that was there before. And so anyway, I went back and talked, and all of a sudden I saw John coming in. And it was so funny because I saw him coming in, and maybe it was because of the wheelchair. I don't know what it was. But he walked by me, and I looked at him, and I was like, boy, I know that guy from somewhere. I was telling the girl I was with. And I said, I know him from somewhere. Well, he turned around just about at the same time, and he goes, how do we know each other? And it was funny because we hadn't seen each other probably since 1987. And
was this the drummer you're talking about?
No, this was you when I walked by you. When I walked by you, yeah.
Okay.
But I was there to see a different guy that was drumming with a different band earlier that night.
Jeff loves drummers, let me tell you.
Somehow I knew him. I don't know why. I don't know who it was now. But anyway,
you know everybody. It seems like
it was kind of funny because when we spotted each other, and it was like, well, here I knew. And then when he said his name, then I said, Jimmy Davison Junction, and he said, wow, you remember that? And I did remember it. And because it seems like yesterday to me anyway. I remember Jimmy and him coming into the radio station and pitching this song, and we sat down and talked, and then we got on air and we talked about the song and everything, and we were one of the first to play it, other than Memphis station. I remember I think FM 100 got on it right away, and but Steve Conley down there. But so it was like I said, it was a great time. Radio was a great time back then because you did have those people coming to the studio to say hi and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't organized, where they're calling up and all that kind of stuff. They'd actually come to the radio station and see you. So, but fast forward, John, when you decided to go to Nashville, tell us a little bit about that.
To tell you about that, I'll back up just a little bit and go back to where we first met, or
right around
down
there.
at the river
Right.
with the river gig, yeah.
Yeah.
And which incidentally, what you were backstage. So do you remember Sweet Sweet Connie?
Jeff got in trouble talking about her one time on the
Oh,
radio,
really? Okay.
from what I understand.
Okay.
And I remember she was back there too.
You know, I got these little bells going off my head, and I remember Sweet Sweet. She was there, yeah.
Now he's remembering stuff. We jogged his memory.
Yeah, wow. Starting to sweat here. And you weren't in that big long line there, were you? That oh well, we won't go on.
I was not in line.
Okay.
If nobody remembers Sweet Sweet Connie, if you want to know about Sweet Sweet Connie, you can just get the whole picture right away. If you go listen to Grand Funk Railroad, we're an American band. You can get
Sweet Sweet Connie, Little Rock.
You know, we can tell you everything there is about Sweet Sweet Connie, but if you just go to that song and listen to that one line, you'll understand who Sweet Sweet Connie was. Go ahead, John.
Okay. And then not only her, not to compare the two at all, but that's where I also, that very same day, I met my second ex-wife, Lisa Fur.
That was a solid day for you.
Not Lucifer, Lisa Fur. Lisa Fur. But that was it. Boy, you know, I met you that day too.
That was, like I said,
what a day to remember.
That's rock and roll history right there.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, Jeff Stone and Sweet Sweet Connie and Lucifer all at one show.
Wow.
So that show went on, and
Yes,
you were on. You made TV a couple of times, like MTV and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, there was a lot of things going on with that album and everything.
Yeah,
you know, where you guys were on,
that was a video that we had that was short-lived because of the incident that happened with MCA. And you know, I should go back and talk and tell you a little bit. You know, then we went. Our management told us to get off of MCA and go to QMI Records, which they had Billy Idol and acts like that. You know, and not QMI. I'm sorry, Chrysalis Records.
Okay.
And so that's when we re-released the record. We re-released it with a whole new label, Chrysalis, and they repackaged their album and everything. I'm kind of talking out of context here, but so when we did that, and then the record didn't really, we'd already done all the work and effort just to try to do it again, and so it never got off the ground again. So that's what happened with Jimmy Davis and Junction. We were signed with Premier, which at that time was the biggest touring agency in the world, and they don't exist anymore. But you know, they had like Sting and people like that. But so then we had to sneak around and play to try to stay alive because we were under contract to these people, and because of legalities, we couldn't do anything, you know, and so we finally pretty much had to break up and go form something else just because of all the legal stuff that was going on, and that we really actually had nothing to do with, just the powers that be, you know. So after 2 years of just, you know, then we did re-record another album that was released by QMI, and not QMI, but Chrysalis Records. And that was whenever Sinead O'Connor, I was telling you about that earlier. That's whenever she was coming out. She had this big song, Nothing Matters.
Nothing Compares to You.
Nothing Compares to You,
yeah.
And Mike Bone, who was the president of that label at the time, said, if this song reaches #1, I will shave my head. The next time I saw him, he had a shaved head. You know, music was changing. And so they shelved us because they put out, you know, Chrysalis was a small label, although they had like big acts. They concentrated on 2 or 3 acts, like Huey Lewis and the News and acts like that. They put all their money into one act, and so they put all their money into Sinead O'Connor to break her. And we were just like, man, I got to do something else, So that's whenever I went from Memphis to Nashville and started playing with some Nashville people, which I played on the Honky Tonk Tailgate Tour with Red Atkins, Daryl Singletary, and Chad Brock, and of course Tanya Tucker. Worked with her; she's great.
Did you by chance get to work with Jeff Parsons, a sound guy? They call him Pig.
Wow, I think I did. That rings a bell. These bells are going off in my head, man.
Oh man, he had longer hair. He had come from he'd worked with Chesney, but then he did some work with Chad Brock too. So yeah, Chad Brock. Pig is a good friend of ours, and I'm sure that he if he tunes in, which he's probably on his 40 acres because he owns a lot of property. He's a rich man. So he might tune in. I'm not sure, but we'll give Pig, Jeff Parsons, a shout out there.
Yeah, I'm sure we've worked together many shows. I'm sure.
So how crazy was it to be with Tanya Tucker?
It was crazy, but she's really her image is a lot blown out of proportion compared to just really how cool she is. She's really a cool girl, and I actually became friends with her before I played with her, and so that was really cool. She's wonderful.
Did you find
number one song?
Oh yeah.
Recently too.
Did you find that growing up in Memphis, you kind of had feet in both ends of the water, so to speak, because you were in the rock world and then you were close to Nashville? And did you find that transition going from pop to country a little bit easier, or were you set up for it? And did you have an idea that's what you want to do?
That's a really good question because a good buddy of mine, Chad Cromwell, who plays on.
Oh my goodness, what an incredible drummer. Love him.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Oh yeah. I'm a big fan of his.
Yeah, me too. He played on our second album pretty much exclusively because we wanted him to for sure. And
I hope he's doing okay. He's just getting to building his house back up from the fires out in California.
Yeah, he had a tragic deal with his house there, and so I think he's doing better, but you really do. You're in tune with all that. That's really
good. Man, I love that
Tracy. Stuff. So anyway, Chad, he got me an audition with Faith Hill, and so I went up and worked with her for a bit, and but I found out that the Nashville ethic of working is a lot different than the Memphis for me. Well, in Memphis, it's like everybody gets together and says, okay, let's work this song up. And in Nashville, it's not working up the song. You get there and you know the song. And plus it's different whenever you write the songs. I started out writing all of our music and we got a record deal first. And then I went to playing with other people, and that was a totally different thing for me because when you write your own songs, you already know where they're going. When you're playing for other people, you got to learn other people's parts, and you really don't implement yourself that much. You just pretty much become a robot, do what somebody else did, show after show after show, and it's two different worlds, So
you kind of go from being the rock star as you were with Jimmy Davis to being a sideman.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's all the way around. It's a totally different thing. You're not calling the shots. You're adhering to what the road manager's telling you to do.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
It was kind of a hard transition for me. For sure.
Joe Stevens, I don't know if you know Joe Stevens, but anyway, he asked the question, John, that did you ever work with John Rich, not the big and rich John Rich, but the pedal steel player John Rich that played, he thinks, with Tanya?
No, actually, I played steel with Tanya whenever I played.
Okay.
And that's one thing we're going to get to, man. You played everything. I can barely play one instrument good.
In
You
fact,
play
you
like
see my
all
steel
of them.
guitar right here set up
Oh,
in my
yeah.
studio, bro.
I don't understand how I don't play anything and you're playing like everything with strings and the piano and all that. How does
Yeah,
one
but
guy?
I would trade. I would trade half of what I do for just half of your brain, man. So I can
Oh, my
remember all these
goodness.
things.
It's funny because he only has half a brain. So
Oh, really?
And that's
Well-
that's a true thing too. But we'll get into that one day too. That's a funny story. It has nothing to do with Sweet Sweet Connie either. So
oh, easy, Jeff.
Some things we'd like to forget, I guess.
yeah, some things that you need to forget.
Yeah.
But then you talked about with the Faith Hill. Tracy asked a question before we got you on. Trick Pony. When did you play with Trick Pony? Because he actually knew somebody, I guess, in Trick Pony.
Yeah. Actually, Trick Pony. I played with them in I think it was 2006, which was actually I think the year that they quit. There was actually another lead singer that came on that different than Heidi Newfield,
Mm-hmm.
which I worked with Heidi too when I was out with Jamie. She had her own solo thing going on, her own solo career. She's great. This other girl that was a singer, man, she was really good, but she was rock and roll is really what she wanted to do. Her name was
Aubrey
Aubrey
Collins, who Tracy from they came up here when you did the MC for that benefit.
Mm-hmm.
And
sure did.
She was with a group at that time, a different group, but she's in Colorado now. She's actually a friend of mine on Facebook. I remember when she was with Trick Pony, and one thing she could do, she could really sing too. She was a great singer.
She was good. She was so good. But you had Keith Burns and Ira Dean, and then either Heidi or Aubrey, and I worked with the group who had Aubrey.
Okay.
And, so anyway, I remember the last day of that gig. Unfortunately, the way we found out that they weren't a band anymore, we sat out there waiting on bus call all day long, and the bus never showed up.
Oh,
we got a call
that's
a couple
the
of
worst.
days later. Yeah,
I mean, y'all were just sitting in the Kroger parking lot waiting for a bus and never showed up.
We literally were in Kroger parking lot. And it was such a hot day. Man, when's the bus going to get here? And we finally just gave up and left. And so
wow.
Yeah, that was a good gig while it lasted.
So you transitioned from Jimmy Davis and the Junction, made your move to Nashville.
Yep.
You got in a couple auditions. Was Tanya Tucker the first touring gig outside of pop that you had done, or what was your first country touring gig after Jimmy Davis?
It would probably have been the Honky Tonk Tailgate Tour.
Okay.
I think.
Man, you know what? I'm a fan of 90s country, not only 80s pop, but 90s country. And call me crazy, but I would have loved to have done one of those Honky Tonk Tailgate tours because you're playing with 3 different artists and all of their music. And I'm a huge fan of Red Akins and Chad Brock and all that stuff.
Yeah. Chad Brock was cool. He was a wrestler,
Oh, yeah.
And
he's from Louisiana, too.
And
rest his soul.
And if people don't remember, Red Akins' son, Thomas Rhett, is now a big country star.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, all these kids today think Thomas Rhett's great. I'm like, y'all should listen to his dad's stuff. That's why he's great.
Yeah, I know. That ain't my truck,
Oh, yes. That's one of our sound check favorites right there, for sure.
Yeah, right. And his son, who's now a big star, he'd just hang out at sound checks, and we just hang out, and who knew he was going to be the big star, So you never know.
That is correct.
John, then you were talking about how it was tough to go and become like a sideman, but you get the gig with Jamie, and the one thing I want to know, was there any rules with Jamie?
Well, no, there wasn't any rules.
The rules were there were no rules.
Yeah, and that was one thing that got me started on that gig. is I was like, man, finally something I can do that I can feel at home with,
Right, because not to interrupt you, but talking about playing touring gigs, a lot of what we're doing is replicating the same stuff over and over. There's not a lot of spontaneity at all. And Jamie's gig, we've done some shows with you guys. Man, listen,
Oh,
there's
really?
transitions, and you don't know what you're going to play next. And it was beautiful to watch.
Oh,
So I'm sure
we
you
were
were
chasing our
loving that.
tail. Yeah, I don't know if spontaneity or freaking out. I don't know what it would be considered.
It looked good.
Yeah, we were playing not David Letterman, but the other one, Jay Leno. And as they were counting down before we went live, Jamie changes the song.
That's great.
As they're counting down, 3, 2, 1, he calls out a different song, and we had to like reassemble right there on the spot and do a different song. So that's how Jamie rolls. He's some people say loose cannon, but I think that's what I've been called that too. But that's one thing that keeps him so exciting. I think is people never really know what's going to happen. Although he's kind of like E.F. Hutton, it's just people. When he finally does say something between songs, people are like, wait a minute, did he just speak?
I think that was one of the things I loved about seeing you guys. Like I said, we played a couple of probably 3 or 4 shows with you. He didn't talk a lot between songs, but what was great about it was the songs, though they told the story, and there was no need for theatrics and a bunch of other stuff.
Well, that's true. That's true. It was like meat and potatoes for sure. And he's the best country vocalist, I think, out there myself.
Did you get some steel guitar chops from Cowboy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, now, what, did you see that video that I sent?
Yes, I did.
Oh, he did? Okay. All right. That's where you're going with that. Yeah, that's funny. No, I'm sure I did. They're in my head, but I can't play them. I never sat down behind a steel guitar as long as Cowboy was anywhere near, because he's the guru of steel guitar.
Well, Jeff always teases me a little bit about the Kentucky Headhunters and Fred Young's drum kit. And I tell him there is no way I'm going to sit down behind that drum kit, because it would be not only desecrating a beautiful and amazing drum kit, but I would sound horrible. So you let the master do the master's work on his instrument.
That's so cool, man. That's true. So you play drums, huh?
Yeah, I play with Blake Shelton, and we've done some shows probably early on. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
wow.
But I remember we done some shows with you. Like, it could have been a corn dog festival or an amphitheater somewhere.
I remember that. I remember those shows for sure.
Oh yeah.
Wow. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm great. Good to meet you.
You too. Again.
Hey, it's a good thing we got along so well before we knew that. See, now we can really be friends.
Yeah, that's true.
I got to go back. I got to tell you a story about Cowboy Eddie Long. I had a real good friend of mine. His name is Jerry. He plays guitar locally in Green Bay, Appleton area, Wisconsin here. And pretty good guitar player. Been playing a long time, 40 years, probably, maybe more. And we went to a show with Kentucky Headhunters and Jamie Johnson. And we're sitting on stage, and we're watching. All of a sudden, Jamie goes into one of the songs, and there's like this shredding going on. And Jerry turns around, he's looking at the guitar player, and he's going, "Who's playing? Who's playing that?" And I said, "Well, isn't it him over there?" And he goes, "No, it's not him." So we're trying to figure it all out. Here it was. Cowboy had changed his whole amp and was doing something. It was like on 10, and he was shredding like Eddie Van Halen. He was shredding. And this buddy of mine, he turned around and he said, "I have never seen that before in my life." But it was just incredible to watch. But the band itself was so tight. Here Cowboy's going off, and everybody's just sitting there going right along with them. It was like, how in the world are they following this? But you guys did it. And that's one of the stories I have about Cowboy. And that's when I became actually a pretty big fan of Cowboy Eddie Long at that point. And he's the guy now that actually goes back to the Memphis days, doesn't he, with you?
Yeah, he does. He's a Memphis guy. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he played with Hank Jr. for a long time. He was Hank Jr.'s running party guy for a long time, And, it's amazing that he's still here to tell it. So thank you. Yeah, but he's a lot of people have survived by changing their evil ways, I guess, or whatever. And he's turned his life over to the Lord, and he's really got a great testimony now, and a lot of great stories too.
Talk about what's going on now, John, because I want you guys to talk. I want you and Tracy kind of to talk a little bit about that Broadway street in Nashville, and now with the virus. I don't want to get into a political thing here, but now with the virus, and I know Nashville's all up in arms because of your mayor and all that kind of stuff. But talk a little bit about what it's like to go down there on Broadway Street, because I know you go down and play. Tracy's been going down every once in a while and playing too with some guys, but people cannot get. I don't think if you're in Nashville and have to live that, they don't get the fact that you go down there to play for tips, that you don't get a set amount of money to play every night.
Right.
Can you explain that a little bit? You and Tracy kind of talk about that, because it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. That was another thing that was really hard for me to wrap my mind around is playing for tips, and that's just what you do down on Broadway. But believe it or not, you can actually make some money if you're with the right group. But that was back before they shut Broadway down, which now with the COVID thing going on, like you said, we don't want to get political, but I mean, that street went from, they developed it to so many clubs, and there's no entertainment down there now, and very little entertainment, if any at all. And that's the way that musicians, whenever they're not on tour, they pretty much make their money on Broadway. Sad to say. But,
yeah, exactly. And I think for me, when I moved to Nashville, I was working at the Hard Rock part-time, and I tried to get to play some shows at some of the bars. There weren't as many. It seems like Nashville has turned into the Disney World of artist nightclubs, because everybody's got one. You know, Blake's got one, Luke Bryan has one, Kid Rock. But I blew my mind coming from South Louisiana and working with a band, and you rehearse once a week, and you play shows, like long shows. You have a set list and all this stuff. And then I get a call to go play on Broadway, and I didn't know any of the people. You're just meeting them for the first time. And there's no set list. They just call a song out, and you better know it, or you better know how to fake your way through it. Did you? How was that for you? Did you kind of go through the same thing?
I did, but I grew up listening to. Whenever I came to Broadway, the first time I went to Broadway was 1982. I was playing with a guy named Vassar Clements. He was a fiddle player. But then I came back around 95, and that's whenever I really started playing on Broadway with James Mitchell and I don't know, guitar player. Plays on a lot of the hits now, and that was just Tootsie's and a few of those clubs that were around there. But I grew up playing Merle Haggard, and I already knew all those songs. And I used to have a great time playing with those groups, because, man, those groups down there were really good. And now there's so much, it's saturated with so much good and bad. And I mean, it's a different thing, when you're playing without a monitor, or if you do, it doesn't have any high end in it. And it's just, it can really be a drag, and now they got plexiglass up around the drummers, and it's just, the world's in a big mess right now.
It's almost too much going on, especially if you're walking down Broadway. It used to be the mid-90s. You only had a few clubs, and they had just started cleaning up Broadway from the 80s. I heard during the 80s, it was kind of rough down there.
Oh, it was. Yeah. There were, you had a club, and you had a strip club, and then another nightclub, another strip club.
I'm surprised Jeff didn't move there then.
No.
Yeah.
That's a win-win for you, Jeff.
I got enough trouble where I didn't need strip joints.
Just go down to the river.
Yeah, so we would get a call to go play, much like John does now, and you might have a guarantee from the club. It could be,
$25 plus tips.
Plus tips. And so you're showing up, and it's a pain with all that. It's great, though. There's a lot of tourist traffic, but we got to load gear in. And thankfully, there's already drums there, and there's probably keyboards there now. But used to be, you'd have to bring a lot of your own stuff, man. That's not fun going down 2nd Avenue with all your gear.
Oh, my goodness. The first gig I ever played on Broadway, I actually didn't play because it was at Tootsie's in the front room, which was the only room then, was the stage is so small that I used to say that I practiced setting up on a postage stamp just so I could play on Tootsie's stage,
Yeah.
It was so small. And I pulled up my big truck, which is loaded with all of my gear that I played in other places. And I remember loading in there to play, and the bartender's looking at me like, "What in the world are you doing?"
This isn't an Electric Light Orchestra concert.
Yeah, and I didn't know. Nobody ever told me the rules of it down there, And so I just, after a couple of hours, I just started tearing back down. I realized it wasn't going to happen, And I couldn't believe it whenever I just would see people just walk in there with a little bitty amp and a guitar, and they would set up, and that would be it.
And then you realize, that's how they do it. Because I had the same thing. I brought way too much stuff.
Yeah.
And here we are, musicians, and we practice, and we're getting good at our craft, and we finally get the shot to play. Let's say it's your first gig on Broadway, and it's never what your expectations are. You always think it's going to be bigger than what it is.
Yeah, I know it. And then I still can't get used to the hollers and the swallers between every song,
Between that and the party buses and the bachelorette parties.
And now they have they set up all the bands in front of the windows, and they open up all the windows. And I've literally been playing before to where the band across the street was playing the same song, probably Sweet Home Alabama or something,
That or Wagon Wheel. How many times?
Wagon Wheel, that's it. That's literally it. And I couldn't tell which band I was playing with, because they were louder than us across the street.
And then you never know. You could be hear country music on one corner, rock in the other, rap in another one.
Yeah.
And then bucket drummers on the street. So hey, it is Music City after all.
So true.
That is so funny. So what's in store, John, with this virus? Of course, not much going on for anybody. Tracy hasn't been back on the road since February, I guess it was, when you guys stopped, right, Tracy?
Yep.
And where do we go from here? Do you? It's going to probably happen. If it's going to happen, it's going to be next summer, probably, for anybody.
Yeah, if it's going to happen, Broadway opened up for like 2 weeks, and then, boy, it's hard not to kind of touch on political things. But long story short, he shut it back down because the COVID thing seemed to kick back in, and so we had a little glimmer of hope, and now it's all back down to no playing anymore.
And I guess you heard the latest. All these bars are now expanding their menu so that they can be considered a restaurant and still have the music.
Exactly.
That's funny. So
so still in phase 2, I think. Yeah.
So, but anyway, well, John, we just wanted, like I said, I wanted to get you on because I wanted to talk about the kick the wall stuff in the '80s, and it was that was a fun time, and I know you got some things going on, but we hope down the road you can come back and see us again. All right.
Yeah, we'd love to have you.
Thank you so much. You've always been so kind to me, and we've stayed in touch through the years, and it's really cool to know somebody from way back then that remembers you and all the details, and you're one of the real guys in the industry that to me is part of the backbone of the music, because it takes everybody working in conjunction to make something happen, and you're definitely in that group of people.
Well, it's definitely his claim to fame, not only making Blake Shelton famous, but he said that single "Kick the Wall," that he made that one famous because he was on it before anybody else was.
Yes, he was.
And I got to say, and I want to thank you, John, because after we reconnected there when you were with Jamie, every time I asked you if I wanted to come out to a show, you always said, "Hey, come on." And the last time I was going to get out there to see you guys was a few years ago in Madison, and there was a big snowstorm, and I wasn't going to drive 3 hours to see you, but I almost got out that night. But I'll never forget getting a hold of you, and you said, "Hey, just come on. Do you want to come?
Yeah.
Come on." And
Right.
and I appreciate that because, like I said, it was a long time that we knew each other, but not many people can go, after they've, made a pretty good name for themselves being with Jamie, and Jamie, what he was doing at that time after the #1 of In Color and all that, having you remember and saying, "Hey, come on." And that meant a lot that you said that. And I appreciate all the things that you've done through the years. And it's too bad. I should have got a hold of Jimmy, and we should have got him on too. That would have been fun.
That would have been great. That would have really been cool.
Next time we'll do that. We'll get a hold of him and see if he'll come on, and we'll have a good old reunion. We'll talk about that radio station days, and I think after meeting you seeing you on the river with Jimmy, I think that's when I got rid of my wife.
Wow!
After the old, in with the new.
Jeff got a good look at the other side of the tracks. He's like, "Yeah, I think I want to do that."
So I think you might have met your second one, but I'm telling you, I think I got rid of my only one. So all on the same day. So we did pretty good, maybe.
Wow, what a day in history!
And then plus Sweet Connie was there. So hey, everything was good.
I'm surprised that MTV hasn't done when they used to do documentaries. Now it's all catfishing and ridiculousness shows. But they should do one of the day that rock and roll stopped. It could have been that day when Jeff was there, or a day in rock and roll history. There should be a documentary about that.
Yeah. American Pie, another verse or something.
Well, John, we appreciate it. Okay, and you have a great day. And like I said, we're going to get you. We're going to get you back on, and we'll get a hold of Jimmy, and we'll have a nice little. Maybe even Tommy will come back on.
Oh man, that would be great. Yeah.
So,
but y'all won't need me, so I'll just go on vacation that weekend because all I'm going to do is bring the show down. So I will listen because I want to hear some stories about Jeff. Jeff doesn't tell me any stories about the '80s and music. I don't know why. They can't be bad. Because
the '80s in music, and John will tell you this: the '80s in music was kind of like what they say about Vegas now. What goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happened in the '80s stays in the '80s.
I want to hear some stories. I'm going to have to pay somebody. I need some dirt, John. Give me some dirt on Jeff. He's too squeaky clean.
There can be some dirt, I'm sure. He rung some bells while ago that I'm just like, wow, I remember that.
Well, you take care, okay? It was good seeing you.
You too. Thanks.
It was good seeing you, John, and I hope to see you on the road at a show somewhere real soon.
Likewise.
Yes, sir.
That's awesome. Okay.
Take care. All right, John Scott. Jimmy Davis Productions in the '80s, then Tanya Tucker, and then Chad Brock and Red Akins and Daryl Singletary, and I mean he was on with everybody, and then Faith Hill he worked with a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about the people that he worked with coming up. It's crazy. I mean, there were some stars there.
So, Jeff, like y'all getting together, when they came into the station, what was it like back then in the 80s when I wanted to get into it with John a little bit, but also with you having worked in radio during that period, what was involved with getting a song up the charts besides other things? And as far as payment,
if you're in the big markets, I mean, anything could have happened. I mean, there was whatever, they could do. I mean, they didn't talk about payola. Of course, that was, the taboo. But, I mean, there was a lot of strange things happening in those bigger markets. The smaller markets, I mean, these guys would come with their record and they'd say, boy, if we really hope that you would do it, especially if you were surrounded in the area within the 40-mile radius of Little Rock. It's kind of like you seen a few years ago with the Big Dog here in Sturgeon Bay, being so close to Green Bay. If we'd play something, it seemed like Green Bay would go on it. If we were a little bit earlier, Green Bay would go on it,
Mm-hmm.
And especially those Blake Shelton songs. It seemed like they would jump on as soon as they heard it or whatever. not saying that they were listening to us, but somehow.
Oh, they were listening, Jeff. Y'all were a big threat to that station. And that's good. You were shaking things up.
And I think that's what happened in the 80s. If you're in that radius, they would, listen to the other stations. And if you're a program director, of course you're out in your car and you're listening to other radio stations. That's just what happens. And if you're Little Rock, Arkansas, you're listening to other stations at that time anyway, because of the different jocks. I mean, more jocks are pulled out of that 40-mile radius of a bigger city to come work, because you're going to find a star somewhere. And back in those days anyway. And those program directors would listen. So if they heard a song, but the neat thing about it, I don't know how many times, I mean, we even had a interview with Axl Rose one time. And
you had Axl Rose on?
Yeah, and it was like, it was crazy on stuff, with that. And I mean, but they would come into the station and they were big. I mean, this is after, they already had their hits. I mean, they were, flying high at that time in more ways than one. But, but I mean, it was just a crazy time, because it was like the days that you heard, like with Loretta Lynn and Tammy Wynette, when they go out to the stations, at that time and get that record played, because it was still like that. And I still remember, the guy that produces Blake now,
Scott Hendricks.
And I've always wanted to ask him this when I seen him at a show, but I'm almost positive he was working in Top 40 in the middle 80s sometime for Capitol Records. I'm almost positive it was him as a record rep. And he was, calling on stations, and he called on stations, and I'm almost positive it was him. And I got to find out, because there was I forget who he was pushing at that time in the Top 40, but always had a very good rapport with him. It was a Hendrix, and I'm almost positive it was Scott. And it was funny, because he would call, and if I needed CDs, whatever I needed to give away, he'd send them. And that was the thing too, back then you got so much stuff, you get albums, CDs, whatever, any kind of, shirts, that kind of all went away. And, when I came back with the Big Dog and all that, for the smaller stations anyway, it kind of went away. The bigger ones, of course, still got their things. They got trips and all that kind of stuff and all that. But yeah, it was a crazy time. It was a fun time. If you wanted to get in trouble, there was a lot of trouble to be getting into.
I want to ask you if you can tell this. I don't know if you can. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but what was the craziest thing someone came into the station to try to get airplay? If you can say it. If you can't, no big deal.
Boy, I don't know. I'd have to think about that one. The craziest thing.
Because I know that there were some things that were probably the norm.
Right.
But, the one thing that was like, wow, they really want this station. It's kind of like in Forrest Gump. Your mama sure does care about your education.
I can tell you this, though. This didn't happen in Arkansas, but a different place I was at. We were all, working and everything, and we got invited over to our program director's house, and we're all living in these almost like
like a band house?
Like a band house.
Uh-oh, debauchery city.
But then we go over to our program director's house, and he's living in a $300,000 house at that time, and we're going,
nice.
Boy, and what song were we playing? That was that Henry Lee Summer song that we just got done playing, or what was it?
God, we sure are playing a lot of Huey Lewis in the news. What the heck is going on here?
The heart of rock and roll is a lot of things going on right now. So,
man, yeah.
You always wondered about that, or cars. You got cars and all that kind of stuff, and like I said, the norm, I think, was trips. I mean, everybody got trips. It seemed like you could go anywhere. If you're in that kind of market. So that was the radio. I mean, there was a lot of rumors to other things. I mean, that was going on. I never witnessed the bad things. I mean, I witnessed some things when I go backstage, the shows and that, And like John was talking about, do you remember Sweet Sweet Connie? I remember Sweet Sweet Connie. I think at every show I ever went to in Little Rock, Arkansas. And she was there, always there.
Big fan of music.
Big fan. And I remember her. I don't know if you remember, you're probably 15, 16 maybe at this time, that the Monkees reunion tour. And the big thing was that everybody said that they weren't singing and that they were on tape, and went to this Monkey reunion tour, and they started a show, and all of a sudden the song started skipping. That's how they started the show. But then they started singing. But, they wanted to make fun of everybody saying that. But I'll never forget going on the bus to meet Mickey Dolenz and from the Monkees, and meeting Sweet Sweet Connie for the first time. And
was it everything you expected?
It was everything I heard about.
And once again, in order to hear about that, go back and do some research, people who want to find out who Sweet Sweet Connie is.
And if you know the song American Band by Grand Funk Railroad, that night that I saw her with Mickey Dolenz and the Monkees, the natural fact was definitely a natural act, what she was doing. So
all right, I guess we should leave on that note.
So we'll leave on that note. But Bucks, I want to give you an update. Bucks are losing by 1 with 7:28 to go in the third quarter, 66-65. And let's talk about your Dallas Cowboys and maybe Earl Thomas coming to the Cowboys. What was this? He got cut because of a misplay that he admitted that he missed the play, but then he got in an argument with another player.
Mm-hmm.
So why did they give up on Earl Thomas? What's the reasoning?
Well, he went to the Ravens and he had a good season. I mean, made the Pro Bowl and stuff, but he's a fiery guy, and he did admit that he blew the coverage, but it was the aftermath, and there was a little bit of a scuffle, and he was released due to conduct detrimental to the team.
Okay.
So now, were there underlying things? We may find out more, that there was some things bubbling under the surface, because it seems odd that this one incident caused this to happen. So I guess we'll hear more about it. But as far as Dallas taking a chance on Earl Thomas, it's clear that he wants to be in Dallas. He said that after a game in, I think it was 2017, in the post-game interview. He's basically begging to go over. And I think he even yelled. He ran to the Cowboys locker room and yelled into the locker room that he wanted to, something along the lines of that he wanted to be there. He's a Texas guy. My concern is Jerry always goes for people with a character issue of some sort. It's like the island of misfit toys in Dallas. They're always getting a quote-unquote project. I'm not sure if this is going to be another one of their projects. Clinton Dix, he hasn't been performing really well, and you know him well enough, having played for the Packers. Maybe is this a McCarthy retread? I'm not sure. Darian Thompson at safety has been playing pretty well. So there may be a healthy safety competition going on in Dallas. Would it help having Earl Thomas? Yes. I'm not quite sure if it's worth it. But I do know that Dallas is rumored to be one of the front runners. Dallas and I think San Francisco. We do need the depth at safety. Bottom line.
Right.
He's a good player. I'm just not sure. Maybe he was in the wrong setting in Baltimore. Maybe he gets down in Dallas and Texas and he's home, so to speak.
But if you're a player that's a misfit, I mean, Dallas is the place to go. Jerry loves those players.
He does. He does. Look at our defensive line.
Right.
So
you guys are still waiting on Randy Gregory.
Man, waiting and waiting and waiting. And we did free up some calorie space. I'm thinking about food, some salary cap space, because they restructured Tyron Smith's contract,
right?
And also they
got rid of Gerald.
Yeah, and that looked like the optics of it were really bad because they cut him after he got hurt. But in his contract that he signed, there was an injury waiver because he had a pre-existing condition with that leg. So in the contract, it was stated that if there was an injury, that they probably not that they would release him, but he kind of saw it coming, and he said he's going to help the team. He, of course, can't be there at the Star, but he's going to help the guys. He wanted to be there, and it would have been an asset, and he was a huge loss to the defensive line. But we'll have to we're just going to have to see how things work out through camp. Everybody's staying relatively healthy, and so will Earl Thomas end up in Dallas? It's not a hot take at all. A 50-50 shot. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they took a chance on him. So,
are you excited 3 weeks to go?
I'm very excited. I can't wait. We're going to have some real football. And the NFL, man, they've been doing a really good job as far as the they're not bubble, but all the teams taking care of themselves. But did you read about it? Came out yesterday that there were 77 positive tests. And so the NFL, all the alarms went off. Of course, the media is like, oh, yeah, see, we told you it was not going to happen. There won't be a season. The lab screwed up the tests. They're all false positives. So everything's good now.
Every one of them was?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So way to go, lab in Jersey.
You wonder how much of that was going on throughout the last 6-7 months.
Listen, we can't even find our shoes with both feet, and they can't even test what's positive and what's not. So I guess the NFL, in a way, dodged a bullet in that respect. But their guys are staying healthy, and there's some quality battles going on in training camps and stuff. What's going on with your Packers?
Packers are all looking good. Got to say hi to Jason Herndon. He just popped on and said,
Jason.
And of course, he's your playing buddy that you've been drumming with on his songs.
He's more of my boss than my actual boss. So I've been playing more with him than with the other guy. So
we got to get him on with his guitar and have him come play.
He'll play some songs for us.
That'd be great to have him do that. The Green Bay Packers. This is an update on my trade that I think is going to happen. Okay.
Oh, are you? Please don't go back into this.
I'm going to just for a second because you brought it up over the weekend. Don't take your headset off. You brought it up over the weekend where you think Rodgers is going to New England. This is the deal.
Yeah, he's going to New England.
This is what's going to happen. It's going to be a three-team deal.
Oh,
it's going to be Dak to the Patriots, Rodgers to Dallas, and we're going to end up getting Zeke back. And the reason being is McCarthy if he gets Aaron, he doesn't need a running game. So that way Jerry gets out of that contract of Zeke's and he can put more money into Aaron. That's the deal. Aaron Rodgers to Dallas, Dak to New England. And I hope your buddy Rick is on to hear this first.
No, we lost him because we're talking music again.
So there's the deal. All right. What do you think?
You know what I think. It's crazy because your trades get more elaborate as we go on.
All right, let's go to our NBA real quick. Dallas over the Clippers. What do you think today?
So, did you ever spin that song, My Name is Luca?
Yep.
Well, there you go. His name is Luca. 21 years old. And he's the youngest player in NBA history with a 40-point triple-double. Now, yes, he's 21, and it's widely known that he's been playing professional basketball since he was 13 out in Europe and stuff. So he has been up against grown men for a long time. But to come off a rolled ankle and then do what he did last night to win in overtime,
right?
Man, I'm rethinking that series, man. I thought the Clippers were going to take it, but the way the Mavericks are playing, Porzingis was out last night, which is funny because he had like some knee soreness. Yet Luka basically broke his ankle. And comes back and puts up 40. Yeah. 43, I think. Yeah, 43 points. Here's his stat line from last night. 43 points, 17 rebounds, and 13 assists. And with that, get this, he joined LeBron and Magic.
Really?
He's the youngest, 21 or younger, to get multiple triple doubles in the playoffs.
Wow.
So he is in rarefied air. Luka's great, man. Did you see the thing that went down between him and what's his name? Oh, what's his name? Before the first
Montrez?
I think, Montrez Harrell. Yeah, well, I'm not going to say what he said.
Right.
What Montrez said to him. They did. They made up before this game, and Luka proceeded to take him out in overtime. So,
do you agree with me that Dallas beats the Clippers now?
I may have to change course.
So you're not really in favor of the Clippers right now,
man. And that was my finals prediction. I'm really getting some crow right now. But oh man, they played tomorrow at 8, and series is tied to a piece. Paul George has been inconsistent. Kawhi's been playing pretty solid, but I can't get over the way the Mavericks are playing. And Luka.
Nobody better overlook Utah, because Utah could play some ball too. The Bucks, they finally found it, I think, over the weekend. Again, they're down. They were down just a little bit ago. I'll check again here in a minute, but it looks like they finally, woke up a little bit. What had happened, I think, is Chris Middleton didn't find anything over the, and then finally he found it on Saturday and a couple of the other ones. Giannis is Giannis. Giannis is going to score his points, but he needs somebody else to help.
He does.
Yeah. And I mean, even LeBron has, Davis out there too. So, I mean, you need somebody else. Giannis can't do it all himself. And they're down.
That's one of my concerns with the Bucks is just the depth. You like you said, Giannis can't do it by himself.
He can't do it. And so, let's see what happens today with the Bucks against Orlando. Bucks are leading that series 2-0. Celtics, they closed out Philadelphia.
That wasn't a shocker.
Brett Brown, I think, is gone. I don't know. Maybe he is gone already today. I'm not sure. I didn't look. But he's going to have to go because 76ers looked horrible.
Trust the process. You got to trust the process.
Embiid, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there.
He's an odd player.
You look at him, it looks like he's 10 feet taller than everybody.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of talent that I don't get why he can't be like a Giannis for them. Mm-hmm. I really don't. So looks like more things are going to change in 76er land. So we'll just have to wait. Everybody's still saying it's going to be the Bucks and Lakers. I don't know.
The Lakers have come on, man.
They have.
We talked last week about it, getting the magic switch and turning it on. Well, guess what? They are playing, man. It's scary to watch LeBron play.
The Bucks really
is.
Bucks are winning right now, 75-72 with 3:40 left in the third quarter. Baseball, let's go there real quick. San Diego Padres, your buddy Jeff Bush is having a good time this week because they're on a roll and hitting grand slams like
Slam crazy. Diego, they call it.
And I mean, just it all started with the grand slams with Tatis taking that 3-0 pitch when they said that he had to take sign. Well, then it just opened. Then everybody was hitting grand slams. So San Diego, here's Fernando Tatis. I was looking at this the other night. He was traded to San Diego for James Shield, a pitcher. Mm-hmm. All right. Chicago White Sox just gave up. I don't know what the deal was. Why you give that type of player. But then I look at this Trent Grisham that's out there for San Diego, and he was with the Brewers last year, and I felt the Brewers gave up a little bit on him, and now he's playing well out in San Diego. San Diego's got a great young team. Between them and Toronto, those are the two most exciting teams, young people, because they play the game because it's fun. That's what they're doing.
They're having a good time out there. And, when you're winning, it's fun. And when you're hitting home runs at the clip that the Padres are, that's just fun ball. So, Jeff, Tatis, when he took that and hit the grand slam, everyone was up in arms about the unwritten rule and all that crap. To me, baseball is full of unwritten rules more than any other sport. Do you agree with that? Should he have just not swung?
I don't agree.
I know that when you were coaching your nephews, you would have never, ever done that. You'd have put it, if you're beating somebody, hey, you're on the field. I'm going to continue to beat you, right?
Their job is to stop us. Our job is to stop them. And I don't care. I never cared if, there was in that type of ball, and Babe Ruth and that, if you're up by 10 runs or 15 runs, of course you quit after so many innings. But major leagues, you're in the major leagues. You're getting paid now. And some of these guys, they might have incentives. And why wouldn't you, hit away to make maybe $100,000 extra because you got an extra home run or whatever it was. So to say that you want, and why would you have somebody quit? That could easily start somebody on a downfall. All of a sudden they're not swinging and they're taking and all that kind of stuff. And there's so many things that could get back. Baseball, mental wise, is the worst because all of a sudden you get down and the next thing, look at what Christian Yelich was going through early in the year. And to say, now you're going to tell Christian Yelich 3-0 and he's up by 7 runs, you're going to tell him to not swing at a ball? There's no way that Christian Yelich, he's swinging, And plus with the major leagues, and you know this yourself, you can be up 7-8 runs and the next thing you know, it's 7-6 and the team's coming back. Pitching hasn't been the way it is. Way it's supposed to be. That would be a good thing to talk about with a guy like Rick Sutcliffe, if we could ever get him on, because I would like to hear what he's got to say, because he's from the old school, where you're brushing people back and you're, and all that kind of stuff. So it would be good to hear. But I think, why shut somebody down just because you're up so many runs? Don't waste an at bat.
Well, yeah, and with the momentum with the shortened season, you do something like that, and that's a very good point, Jeff. That could be the beginning of a slump, and you don't need to be slumping at this point. So, hey, we're on the gas pedal. We're on cruise control. We're going to finish this thing strong. So I just find it odd that baseball has all these little unwritten rules and stuff like that. That's just the history of the game, I guess.
Because you're down now to about 36, 35 games, I think, left.
Yeah.
So, but no, San Diego, though, great. I mean, they look like a great young team. They just need to get some pitching probably. Brewers, tough one over the weekend against Pittsburgh. Chicago Cubs, they looked like they were going to have a rough time, but they did pull one out yesterday against the White Sox. The White Sox took them to town on Friday and Saturday. I mean, baseball is up and running. Looks like they're going to get through, though. Maybe, nobody else has come down with the virus. Knock on wood.
The last one, wasn't it the Mets? They had some postponements.
I think the Reds, too, at one time.
So are your Brewers going to get something together?
I don't know.
Jeff, I've not heard you say that before. Usually you're all positive.
I'm not excited about the Brewers for the simple fact is that there's a lot of things that I don't get this. Craig Counsell, it's been like this for a couple of years, where he doesn't get set on a batting order. He's like over the weekend, he was leading off Ryan Braun, which that's fine, but then keep it, then stay with it. Don't, go back and forth. And so I don't know with, and they're staying with their young guy, even though there's the DH rule that they can use the DH. They're staying with their young guy, Hira, with second base, and he's just horrible in defense. He needs so much work defensively. Keston Hira, great hitter. So why not use the DH with him? Let him DH, and get somebody out there that can play second base. And so there's a lot of things that need to go. Losing to Pittsburgh 3 this weekend,
that was a tough lick.
That's horrible. That's horrible. That's just
Pittsburgh isn't playing. They're not playing very well. So for y'all to give that up,
yeah, that's horrible. So that's it that's baseball. Anything else going on that we need to touch on?
Man, I do know my Raging Cajuns. We have a full schedule now. We got some new teams. We dropped New Mexico State, we dropped McNeese State, and we dropped Wyoming due to cancellations and postponements and whatever else. But we did pick up Central Arkansas. We picked up University of Alabama at Birmingham, not Roll Tide.
That would have been a bad game.
Oh yeah, and then we picked up. Of course, we talked about this before. Iowa State. So,
When are we going to that game?
Man, maybe we should go to the UAB game.
No, we got to go to the Iowa. Then we can meet. We can meet in Iowa.
That's not even halfway. That's different direction.
It's good for me though.
Oh, yeah, it is. Wait, you can't leave the state.
I can't.
Oh,
and so we can do Iowa, and then we just got to quarantine ourselves when we get back.
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know. I've been to Ames, Iowa before. So
did you play there?
I think so.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well,
so it looks like we're going to have some college football.
I think you should get us some field passes, and we should go to that game. That's what I think.
Man.
Work your magic, Tracy. Come on. You know people.
I do know people.
And
maybe I can do that.
I don't know if you noticed, but I'm going to show you here real quick. But Steve Kime, my buddy for the Arizona Cardinals.
He came through for again?
Yeah.
Man, he's sending you all kinds of stuff.
What do you think? Huh?
Wow.
Not bad, huh?
Amazon is amazing, isn't it?
He sends it. He goes, "Hey, Jeff, show Tracy." I said, "All right, I'll show him." So
I'm really glad that relationship has blossomed.
He invited me down for a game, and then he said next year for the draft, he said, "Come on, and you can pick one of our picks." I said, "All right."
Oh, we're gonna do it at Kingsbury's house. He's got room.
Yeah. Outside.
Jeff, I got this. I before I forget, it's Carter's first football game today.
Today? What time?
Yeah, 5 o'clock. Well, he has to be there at 5, so I think it's at 6.
All right. And he played basketball over the weekend?
Yeah, he did. They went 1-2.
Okay.
It was a good tournament. There were almost some. It's weird, man. Parents are crazy. There was almost a fight. No, well, I did come off the seats just to make sure no adult touched any kids. That's the only reason. And it was funny because Carter saw me walking up. He did. Go back. Just making sure nobody gets hurt. That's all.
Making sure nobody gets hurt. Want to make sure. So where was Maria at the time? On the floor?
She was not at the game because the uncles were in town.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So we got the 2 uncles from Brooklyn. They left this morning, and then father-in-law was here. So they stayed at our house all weekend. So we had a full house.
All right.
Yes, we did.
I was wondering why I didn't get a call back, so I figured that you guys were busy.
Dude, I was a grill master. Remember the story we told about me grilling for
you and Ken? Yep.
Oh man, listen. Every time I see those juicy burgers come off the grill, I think about how far I've come from making hockey pucks to delicious, juicy burgers.
Well, I can't wait to get one of them, after this virus all settles down and I get my chance to head to your area. I can't wait to check out one of those burgers.
Yeah, we're going to go to Toots, and then I'm going to grill out for you.
We're going to hang out at Sullivan's.
Oh, yeah, Rick. Rick wants to do a Facebook Live from Sullivan's.
There you go. Let's do it. Let's do it. We'll wait till I get down there, then we'll do one.
Oh, man. And by the way, Rick has a lot of suggestions for our show.
All right. Well, tell him to write them up, get them to our...
Oh, I already have them, and I ignored them.
Well, send them to our people.
Oh, yeah.
And let her decide what we're going to do.
Yeah, I think she's going to think it's a horrible idea, and he just needs to sell books.
All right. Next week, I don't know if you got a hold of our guest.
Hey, I'm going to surprise you, just like you surprised me.
Is there going to be a guest?
There will be a guest. Okay,
they're going to be a guest next week, and we'll talk to them. And we should know by the end of this week, Lakers and Bucks.
Yeah,
they're moving on and everything. So
we'll know a lot by next week.
Exactly, and then we'll talk more about football and whatever else comes up.
Certainly,
maybe another little. We haven't talked about you on the road lately. We got to.
I haven't been on the road. The only road I'm on is going back and forth from practices.
There's got to be a story that we haven't got to yet on the road.
I've forgotten all those stories, Jeff.
I wish we could find. I seriously do wish we could find a video of you at that Hooters place, at Hooters in somewhere in Indianapolis,
Yeah.
That would really be a great video for this show. So,
Nope, we're not going to find it. Oh, and before I forget, it's Philip de Steiger's birthday.
is it today?
Yes, it is.
Oh, well, happy birthday.
Happy
Of course,
birthday.
Philip's the one that came up with our theme song.
Yes, he did an amazing job.
Amazing.
He captured the essence of what we were going for.
Exactly. The John Tesh 80s. And that's what came out. So that was great. All right. You have yourself a great week.
Yes, sir. And you also. And I'm sure we're going to talk. We got to, because we're always working, Jeff. The grind is real.
Always working. And, and people don't realize how much you bother me during the week. So
I don't. And I just miss you. That's all.
Also want to say before I go, a lot of unrest in Louisiana with the hurricanes and
man. It's 2020. We got 2 hurricanes coming.
You had a shooting up in Lafayette. We in Wisconsin had a shooting in Kenosha, which is down towards the Illinois border, just south of Milwaukee. And
y'all settle down out there, people.
Let's hope we get a grip on all this stuff because boy, oh boy, it just doesn't look good at all. And when you look at it, that nobody can get along. And like I said, we don't want to be a political thing, but I'll tell you what, somebody needs to do something to get everybody back in order here a little bit. But hopefully, everybody in your state with the hurricanes, like you said, a double hurricane coming at them. Let's hope.
So ridiculous.
Let's hope everybody stays safe.
Please do.
Because
I don't think the governor can prohibit hurricane parties.
I don't think
that's going to happen.
It's going to happen. So hopefully everybody stays safe. We'll keep an eye on that too. So, all right. Have yourself a great week. All right.
You also, buddy.
All right. Talk to you later.